Alright everybody, welcome back. It's Revolver84 here again, and today we're going to continue with part 2 of our talk about the locations for the gear sets within Elder Scrolls Online. I'm just here in Wrothgar chilling, and what is actually the first place I want to talk about. So here we are. This is the crafting location here. We're in Wrothgar. I'll get it up on the map. Burrell Forge. And this is for Law of Julians, which is only just in the Wrothgar Osinium DLC. It's 6 traits are required for it. 2 items adds 600 spell crit. 3 items adds 843 maximum magicka. 4 items adds 600 spell crit. 5 Law of Julianus, which is increased spell damage by 260, so that's very much a soak type of gear set. Yeah, it's useful, especially if you're a soak DPS. It opens up a lot of options to you there, and it makes your resource management a lot more easier. The next one I want to talk about is in Reaper's March, so we'll go to Reaper's March. I've totally lost my bearings here. You know what it is? You go off for about... Oh, there it is. You go off for less than a week because you're... Well, a week because you're not very well. You come back and you just totally forget where everything is. Right, so... It's this one here, if I remember rightly. Green Speaker's Grove. So this is for Willow's Path. Willow's Path is a 6 trait required gear set. 2 items adds 112 magicka recovery. 3 items adds 112 stam recovery, 4 items 112 health recovery, and 5 items unlocks the Willow's Path special ability, which increases all recovery in combat by 15%. Now that's pretty damn good. Like, already your recovery is going to be pretty good, but if you can get 5 piece, it means that for all intensive purposes, you can close your eyes to your resources and focus purely on your tactics and purely on the combat taking place in front of you. That's a pretty damn good set for anyone, really. So we've also been to Reaper's March there. The next one's in Bankery. It's over here, and it is about... So this is again one of the ones I haven't actually been to yet, I have to admit. And it's over about, I think it's about there, if I remember rightly. A place called Viridian's Hideaway. And the final place that you can find this gear set's in the Rift, the good old Rift. Bottom right, it's there, Smoke Frost Vigil. So yeah, not a bad gear set at all. The next one I want to talk about is Hunding's Rage. So Hunding's Rage is a 6 trait one, and yeah, it's fairly useful for your stam DPSs, if I'm honest. 2 piece item adds 600 weapon crit. 3 piece item adds 843 max stamina. 4 item 600 weapon critical. And 5 items unlocks the Hunding's Rage, which increases weapon damage by 260. Now that's obviously not bad at all. I've just totally lost my bearings again. Why can't I never remember where Reaper's March is? You know what it is? Like I say, I'm off for a bit of time from it. I just totally forget where I'm going. So it's here anyway for the ADL. Broken Arch. Back in Bankery. It is about there, in a place called Weather's Cleft. And finally back to the Rift. Oops, Rift there in Trollslayer's Gully, which is over there. Oh no, that's not it. Trollslayer's Gully is... Wait a minute, that should be Trollslayer's. Elderborg's Hideaway. That name must have changed at some point. Has it always been called Elderborg's Hideaway? Let us know in the comments, because I'm fairly certain that wasn't always the case. next one I want to talk about is another DLC. It's the first proper DLC, if you don't include Craglorn, that is. First proper DLC for console, at least, the Imperial City one. It's the Redistributor gear set. So this can be found about there, I would think. Within the Imperial City itself. It's actually quite a 7 trait, so we'll start getting into territory here where you have to have been playing the game for quite some time and pretty much been researching on the straight away as well. So we're all getting into a place where this is really sort of more experienced players. So the Redistributor 2-piece adds 903 max health, 3-piece 821 max stamina, 4 items adds 821 max stamina, 5 items when you receive healing while at full health, heal a nearby ally for 1533. This effect can only happen once every 3 seconds. Now in reality that's not very good, because how often once combat starts are you going to be at full health? And why on earth would anyone bother healing you if you're at full health? So imagine a situation, you're in a dungeon, you've got a healer running around, there's 2 other people that the healer's looking at, not including themselves. They say you're at full health, are they gonna bother healing you in the hope that 1533 points gets redistributed to someone that actually genuinely needs it? No, they're going to get to the person who actually needs it and distributes it to them. It's a bit of a stupid bloody gear set, if you ask me. Well, I mean, the others, to be fair, are alright, but the 5, you get the impression they might have been bloody running out of ideas or something. That was an awful idea for a gear piece. The next one is actually another DLC only one, so we're going to go to Hugh's Bane. Because I'm going to talk to you about the Clever Alchemist. So the Clever Alchemist is found in the city. It's found about there, I would say, at No Share Workshop. And we are talking about DPS here. 2-piece 928 max health, which is pretty damn good if I'm honest. 3-piece 928 max health. 4-piece 112 weapon damage, adds 112 spell damage as well. 5-piece, when you drink a potion you feel a rush of energy, gaining 577 weapon and spell damage for 15 seconds. So when you're in combat and you drop a potion, which we all know you have to do from time to time, you get that additional damage. Like I say, I know the original ones were for your health, but it's very much sort of a DPS based sort of thing. The next one is in the Gold Coast, and it's Varen's Legacy. So Varen's Legacy, totally lost my bearings again. Where's the Gold Coast again? Am I going nuts? I need to come back to this game. I should probably rehearse the locations before. There it is. I should probably rehearse the locations before recording this. But never mind. Like I say, I have been ill recently. So Varen, obviously, if you didn't know, was the Emperor. If you followed the story all the way through, I don't want to spoil it for you, but obviously Varen's the guy that you meet, the blind fella. He gives you a lot of missions. And ultimately, it transpires that he was the former emperor, blinded by the scrolls, and he basically wants to stop Molag Bal from taking over the world. But anyway, I digress. Varen's Legacy, 7 trait required. It is in. It's about there, I would say. Strid River Artisans Camp. Bit of a mouthful. But not bad gear set, to be fair. 2 item, 928 max health. 3 items, 843 max health. Sorry, big one. 3 items, 843 maximum stamina. 4 items, adds 4% healing taken. 5 items unlocks Varen's Legacy, which is a 10% chance on block that the next area of effect attack you will deal an additional 3000 damage. So you're talking about an all-rounder sort of situation here, predominantly aimed at doing PvE dungeon sort of experiences. Not worth going into PvP sort of situation. But yeah, a useful gear set nonetheless for PvE in a dungeon sort of environment. The next one I want to talk about is it's in a totally different realm. It's in the realm of Oblivion, hence its name, Oblivion Foe. So we'll zoom all the way out, and we're going to go to Cold Harbour. All the way out, and we're over here, all the way to Cold Harbour here, and it is at the there it is there, Font of Schemes. Now, for those of you who haven't reached Cold Harbour in the story, you probably didn't even know it was there. But since the 1 Tamriel update, you can just go straight to it. You might have to travel to there with a friend or something. But another way of getting there is a, where am I going? A dungeon. There we go. Vaults of Madness. If you do that dungeon and you just walk out the front, it'll take you into Cold Harbour. So if you haven't even been there already, I'm going to mates there to fast travel to. That's how you can get there. Anyway, back to the gear set. Oblivion's Foe. This is 8 traits required, so we are now talking vet sort of level. 2 items adds 112 health recovery. 3 items 112 stam recovery. 4 items 112 magicka recovery, and 5 items increases the damage of your soul trap abilities by 100%. Now, if like me, you really like the ultimate for from the soul trap skill line. I can't recall what the actual full name for it is, but basically, long story short, it fires out a long bluey white sort of line of damage. It's my distancer really. It gives me a fraction of time to stand back, being a tank, to be able to stand back and get my health back up and still cause damage. The ultimate itself does do some significant damage, and if I was to be able to get 100% additional damage on that, that's quite significant. The other damage for the soul trap abilities, they're not great in terms of damage. They're more obviously designed for literally that, trapping the souls inside a soul gem, so you can go on to use it for crafting and resin and such like. We're staying in Cold Harbour for our next one, because our next one is at Death Spinner's Lair. So we'll zoom out, and it is there, Death Spinner's Lair. And the gear set we're going to talk about is Spectres Eye, which is another 8 trait required gear set. 2 items adds 1,687 physical resistance, which isn't bad at all. 3 items adds 843 maximum magicka. 4 items adds 928 maximum health. And 5 items gain major evasion for 3 seconds after casting a spell that costs magicka. This effect can only apply once every 6 seconds. Major evasion increases dodge chance by 20%. So what we're talking about here is a DPS soak, aren't we really? Can't imagine it fitting into any other particular build. Templar would be a useful one. Dragon Knight, yep, useful. But yeah, DPS soak, I think, definitely for this one. The next one is another 8-piece one, and we're going to go back to Nirn, all the way back to Tamriel, to the very first Adventure Zone, which was in the console edition, but was actually a DLC for the original PC version, Craglorn. So here we are in Craglorn, and we are going to about here, to the Lannister's waste station. Get it on the screen there. So I get that before 1 Tamriel, Craglorn, if you were a solo player, which I am, it was very much off your ability to go out there really. But since 1 Tamriel update, I've never actually tried it myself, but you can apparently wander through Craglorn on your bill and not get absolutely murdered by the enemies out there because of the leveling system now. It's been something that I've been meaning to do, because I am really keen on doing the trials and such like, but I've just never gotten around to it. But anyway, that's where it is. And you can go there for the Way of the Arena gear set, which is an 8 trait required gear set. 2 items adds 928 maximum health. 3 items adds 843 maximum magicka. 4 items, 843 maximum stam. And 5 items reduces the cost to break free by 40%. Now, break free, let's face it, once in a blue moon that'll occur in PvE, but in PvP that happens all the time, doesn't it? You get CC'd all the time in PvP, purely because, you know, if like me, I'm a tank, I've got to use CC to tie my people down. It's a very common trait to use, so that sort of gear set there will be useful for people in PvP sort of situations in Cyrodiil. The next one I want to talk about is also in Craglorn and is about here. Atelier of the Twiceborn Star. And this is the gear set Twiceborn Star, which is a 9 trait required gear set. So we really are obviously in the realms of, you know, champion points. What, 180 plus we're talking here type of thing. I would think the amount of time you probably have to churn through this, unless you've really proper hammered the research tree skill line abilities and getting them reduced or whatever. But anyway, the Twiceborn Star, 2 items adds 928 max health, 3 items adds 843 max stamina, 4 items adds 843 max magicka, and 5 items allows you to have 2 Mundus Stone bonuses at the same time. Now, the 2 to 4 is good, 5 is absolutely wicked. 2 Mundus Stones, that is fantastic. Hence the 9 traits required. This isn't just for any idiot. I mean, can you imagine the damage of having perhaps the warrior and the thief, or the warrior and the lover or something, or the tower and the lover? You're talking about 2 Mundus Stones active at any given time. People would bend over backwards for that. Now, okay, if you were going for a particularly strong sort of heal build, or a tank build, okay, I'm not going to lie, the 2 to 4 isn't great because it doesn't properly pair you to your build. But the 5th one, you know, that's something pretty special. 2 Mundus Stones is something pretty special, something to really be considered. And if you can fit it in, if you can still complete your requirements to fulfill your role through gear sets, through gear scores, I should say, and fighting style, and what you're armed with, you might be able to get away with it, because it would really be a benefit to having 2 Mundus Stones on the go at any given time. Definitely worth at least experimenting with, at the very least. Next one, 9 trait set. I'm going to go back to Imperial City. So all the way back, and we are up at the top end over here this time. Not far from the entrance. About, ooh, I can't even get the hover to hover over it. Stop auto going to it. Stop auto going to it. Anyway, it's just to the left of there. There, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. I am the man. It's about there. It's the Memorial District. And this is the Armour Master. So 2 items gets you 903 max health. 3 items, 1642 physical resistance. 4 items adds 1642 spell resistance. And 5 items unlocks the Armour Master. While you have an armour ability slotted, increase your maximum health by 5%. When you activate an armour ability, you gain 4526 physical and spell resistance for 10 seconds. Now when it says armour ability, obviously you haven't got an armour ability particular skill line other than the things that, you know, you get for light, medium and heavy. But I'm not going to lie, some of them aren't great. And how many of them skills do you actually have? Do you know what I mean? The only thing that jumps out off the top of my head is it immovable one? Yeah. I guess you're gonna have to have a think about what skills you want to use before you go through the effort of trying to get that one. The next one I'm going to talk about is Morkuldin, which is back in Hrothgar as a 9-trait one, 9-trait required set. So we are going to Hrothgar, and we are going to there, Morkudin's Forge, which is like at the side of it's hidden away. So there's sort of like a rock face, like a cliff face, with sort of like a keep/watchtower type of thing on it. And there's a big sort of hole in the middle of the cavern type of thing, in the middle of the wall type of thing. Anyway, you access it by going to the base of that wall and going in through, I guess you could call it a secret passage into the wall. But here's the thing, it's only accessible once you've been through that location through a quest line, through the main story. Basically, long story short, you have to go in there to extract, it's like a hammer thing, a hammer of the orcs type of thing that's down there. You got to go in there, you got to fight a load of automatons, and you get eventually to the forge, and that's when the secret exit and entrance unlocks for yourself, so you can't gain access to it until you've done the quest line. But if you are a DPS, it's certainly worth the wait. 2 items adds 832 max stamina, 3 items adds 111 stam recovery, 4 items 111 weapon damage, and 5 items a 10% chance when using light or heavy attacks to summon an animated weapon to attack your enemies. The weapon's basic attacks deal 2,763 physical damage. So what you're talking about here is a stam build DPS. And that's not bad. That's not bad at all. The 2 to 4 makes a lot of sense for a stam-based DPS. 5, 2,763 additional damage on top of the damage you're already doing with your light or heavy attack. And you're going to be attacking physically all the time. So that is a real good set if you're a stam DPS. The second off last one I want to talk about is a 9-piece set, and it's at Hugh's Bane. So we'll zoom all the way back out and go to this other DLC related zone. So Hugh's Bane, and it is about there. It is the Lost Pavilion. So this gear set, if I haven't already said, it's called Eternal Hunt. And that is Hunt, H-U-N-T. 2 items, 843 maximum stamina. 3 items, 112 stam recovery. 4 items, 112 stam recovery. 5 items, when you use roll dodge, you leave behind rune that detonates when enemies come close, dealing 7,149 poison damage and immobilizing them for 1.5 seconds. Now, that is, again, DPS stam, isn't it? But DPS stam with a light or medium gear set, armor set. But if you can draw your enemy in, if your enemy's not a boss, and you can draw your enemy in, 7,149 damage just for making sure you get out of the way of the bloke. You'll sharp get into the habit of dodging out the way and keeping out the way, if you know that for a fact that you're going to be dropping 7,000's worth of ruin for them. So that is definitely something you need to consider if you're a DPS. Not a bad build at all. The last one I want to talk about is back in the Gold Coast. So we'll go back to the Gold Coast. Here we are. That's all the way up the top. It's over here. It is about there. Clovian's Revolt Forge Yard. And this gear set's called Pelinal's Aptitude. A 2-piece item gets you 928 max health, 3-piece 112 stam recovery, 4-piece 112 magic recovery, and 5-piece unlocks the Pelinal Aptitude, so your weapon damage and spell damage both become the highest of the 2 values. That is just confusing, isn't it? Your weapon damage and spell damage both become the highest of the 2 values. 2 values of what? So, what that means is, if your spell damage is higher than your weapon damage will increase to your spell damage level. Similarly, if your weapon damage is higher than your spell damage will increase to your weapon damage level. But what's the point? What is the point? If if you had a high weapon damage, it's because you're a physically attacking person. So if your spell damage increased, what would be the point? You wouldn't be using spell damage anyway. You would be using your physical attacks, which is what your build's meant for. If you had as high, you're not going to be using physical damage. And if you're not using physical damage, what possible use is weapon damage to you? That is a absolutely stupid five items trait. If I'm honest, absolutely stupid. And considering it takes 9 traits to get there, that is really not worth it. There are better gear sets out there for you. Like, I have to be honest, there are better gear sets out there. Not one worth considering. Not for me. Not for me. So I hope this series has been beneficial for yourselves. I'd like to think it has. I hope you've found something out. I'd like to think that you've found gear sets that you might think's applicable for yourselves, and now that you know what you want, you'll know where to go to get them. No doubt there'll be more gear sets coming out in the future. I'm conscious that I haven't introduced any ones for the new Hist DLC. That's because I haven't got it. I will be getting it eventually, so I've got no idea what gear sets come with that, I have to be honest. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comments below. If you think any of the gear sets are any good, if you think any are rubbish, if you've tried some you don't like them, I'd love to find out so I can feed that back to the rest of the audience. Let us know if you're having a good result. But what I'm particularly interested in, what I'd really like to hear back from, is when you've mixed gear sets up, because I very rarely run 5-piece gear sets. I usually run at least 2. Vampire's Kiss and Deathwind, or Pariah. They're the 3 of my faves at the minute. But I am conscious of the other ones like Trinimac and Briarheart and things like that. But yeah, very rarely won't run a 5-piece. If you're a 5-piecer, let us know. Let us know what you think. If you, like me, like doing combinations of the 2, write down what your combinations are and explain what the benefits are. I'd love to hear about it, because I'm forever wanting to look at my build, and I'm forever trying to think about my build and how I'm going to create it and improve on it. I'm after every last possible bit of score to be squeezed out of what's available there is at this point on my CP level. So thanks very much for watching, everybody. I hope you found it beneficial. Please subscribe, and I'll look forward to speaking to you soon. Thanks very much. Ta-da.